I'm kicking this video to my backup channel. YouTube is my whore, Nowiki, which, again, if you're not subscribed to that channel, if you're subscribed to my main channel, but not to my backup channel, then perhaps you should. Just saying. But if you are here watching this video on my backup channel, then welcome to my backup channel. It's necessary to have a backup channel, I have found. Although the censorship, YouTube censorship, seems to have kind of wound down lately. I'm still not all that sure about what I could conceivably be penalized for. And this is one of those topics where I back in the day, meaning like last year, or definitely 2 years ago, I would never have been able to record this video on YouTube at all. I wouldn't have recorded it on YouTube at all. I would have posted it on my BitChute channel, which, is still where I go sometimes. But anyway, I thought I'll just take a chance and put it up here on my backup channel on YouTube. So there's a study that's just come out which talks about how wearing masks was actually detrimental, and that many people who wore masks for a longer period of time, they're suffering the symptoms that have been attributed to quote-unquote long COVID. I don't really buy into the long COVID thing. I don't know. I mean, it's possible, I guess, but then I don't really buy into the COVID thing. Ooh, I'm getting way spicier than I thought I would. But let me just stick to the issue I want to discuss here. I always, and this is not a boast. It's just the way I apprehended things, just the way I responded to things. I always knew that the masks were bad. I always conceived of them as an intolerable imposition. And, I knew that they were likely not to do much or any good, that it was strictly theater. I knew all of that, but of course there were people who, there were studies that claimed at the time, rigged studies that's actually they work, and I was like, yeah, right. That's what you're saying now. That wasn't what you were saying a few months ago. Well, but so it's very strange that the science has changed, whereas before, I remember seeing the boxes, the mask. The notice on the box said does not protect against COVID-19. I remember that, and now they're suddenly starting to say, oh no, well that didn't really mean what you thought it meant, or you wear masks to protect other people, it's not about protecting yourself. Surely the whole idea of putting a shield up, covering all of your breathing passages, is meant to be some kind of prophylactic against these germs or whatever they were. This virus, which again, before they changed everything up on you and said, well, actually, they do work, and you should trust us because we're the experts. Before that, the experts were saying, no, they don't work, and you shouldn't wear them. And the virus doesn't, the mask doesn't have a permeable, or is too permeable. For a virus can get in, if it wanted to get in. If somebody coughed in your face, then the virus would get in, right? And then the people who said, yeah, you're wearing them for you, not for them. But if you coughed in someone's face, then the virus would escape your mask, just like it would escape someone else's mask, right? So it was always stupid. It was always ridiculous, just like the social distancing, just like everything else. It was contrived. It was phony. It was stupid, but it was worse than that to me. I thought there was something really sinister, and I still do believe there was something really sinister about this crusade to mask everybody, to get everybody masked up. And I don't exactly even know what it is. I will freely admit that in opposing it as strongly as I did, and I had videos where I was burning a mask, and watching it burn to ash in the street. I had videos where I threw a mask in the toilet and peed on it, and flushed it down the toilet. That was, not a very tasteful video, but it expressed how I felt, for sure. And that you can still see both of those on BitChute, I believe, if you want to. But there was always, to me, something really sinister about it, about the Mask Crusade, something deeply dehumanizing about the push to make everybody wear masks. Now, can I claim that I never did it? I mean, no. I made certain sacrifices at particular times when I felt that I absolutely had to. I would sometimes wear them into stores, but I would immediately pull it, under my nose, and just dare anybody to say something about it. And nobody did. Where I was at, people were generally pretty mellow about it. And there were public places where I was the only unmasked person around, and nobody cared. Nobody seemed to really. It didn't really seem to matter to anyone. It again, like I've said before, we shouldn't just judge all the normies, quote unquote, who do things to go along to get along. They're not necessarily like conformist freaks. They are conformists, but they're not necessarily mean, awful, conformists who sniff out heretics and give them hell. They're not all Karens, or whatever the male equivalent of Karen is. Maybe the male equivalent is still Karen, because it is a very feminine sort of a personality trait. To be that much of a busybody. I mean, it's a negative feminine trait, not a positive one. To be all up in people's business and so forth, and a busybody, and just a I don't know, that kind of person, to have that kind of attitude. So what prompted me to speak about all of this was, again, this new study, which seems to show that wearing masks excessively actually does harm, and that a lot of what's attributed to long COVID is actually harm that is done to a person by covering their, by just inhaling so much carbon dioxide, basically, not having free airways, not being able to breathe in the air, just having this, just breathing in your own stale exhalations. If you've got that thing on for the bulk of the day, it can't be good. It can't be good for you. And I remember seeing, watching in a different state basketball being played, and like high school basketball, and all the kids were wearing masks, as they were running up and down the court. Basketball, it makes you winded. If you've ever played it, there's a lot of, you go up the court, you go down the court, offense, defense, offense, defense. It really it's very exhausting. And or it can be if you're not in good enough shape. But I was just thinking to myself, my God, one of these kids is going to collapse. I never saw it happen in any of the highlights that I was watching, but I remember just thinking that. How could they be doing that to these kids? This is awful. I mean, at least they're letting them play, like that. It was that sort of time where we were saying, well, at least they're giving us this much, they're only taking 60% of our God-given freedoms away instead of all 100%. So let's be thankful for that. And you really had to strain for that. Even you had to I remember just feeling so depressed most of the time during this period, and I believe that's part of the psyop. I believe it's demoralization. It's intended. It was intended for that cause, among other things. It was intended to drill that into us. But I remember that the way I dealt with demoralization was to say, oh, well, life is returning to normal here or there. I would go to the beach here in Georgia with our great Governor Kemp, and I call him great, even though he might not be great objectively, but as far as I'm concerned, he was great because he said, he after a month or so, he said, okay, no more lockdown, quit with that jive. And he said, we're going to open the beaches, so it wasn't like in California where they arrested people or wrote fines for people who would go to the beach and go surfing all by themselves, stuff that, I'll never stop. They say you should let it go. No way. I'm not letting it go. I will look back in anger until the day that I die, just like Morrissey said in that song of his. So you needed to grab a hold of certain things and say, okay, we've got this going, we've got that going. It's not totally a prison planet, and this is kind of a rambling video. I'm aware, but I just wanted to re-emphasize, because I still see people going around with those things on their faces, and the libertarian part of me says, well, look, as long as they're not making me do it, if they want to do it, whatever, that's fine. But the vengeful part of me just wants to rip those damn things off their faces and say, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm not going to do it. I'm not actually going to do that. I'm not even going to be, mean to them or treat them badly in any way if I interact with them. But a part of me just thinks, why do you want to remain shackled? Really, representationally speaking, the mask is a shackle. It represents it was described by some as a muzzle, and it does have a muzzling effect, right? If you talk to somebody who's wearing a mask, they sound like this, you can't hear them as well. It muzzles the voice, it muzzles breathing, and yeah, it does. It has that same kind of dehumanizing effect. That it makes these makes people look like look like beasts of burden, like horses that have been muzzled and that are being led around by the muzzle. There's just, to me, there was always something diabolically wrong with the mask thing. And God bless everyone who just said, I'm not doing it. I'm not wearing them. And I know a couple people who were like that, who just refused to do it. I don't know how they got through the day, but I guess they had excuses, or they just rolled with it. I just, like, there were times when I didn't have the stomach to fight some busybody in some store clerk zealous to uphold this stupid rule. I didn't want to, I didn't want every interaction that I had with someone to wind up being confrontational. I really, I don't enjoy that. So as a result, there were times when I actually put the damn things on, but I remember, like, I lost some followers. I actually had some people, say, just put the damn mask on. It's no big deal. Just do it. Just put it on. What's the harm? It's just something to protect people, or whatever. And this whole blasé attitude about it, also just really rankled me. He just really pissed me off. What do they mean by that? What do they mean by saying, what's the big deal? What do they mean by it's not a big deal, just do it? It doesn't matter. It's not really that much of a burden, or you're making a martyr out of yourself if you say that it's really a greatly debilitating burden to put on a mask. I never claimed it was the worst thing in the world, but I never liked I always felt uncomfortable. Maybe there were some people who were okay with it, who just felt, I don't know, who wore them enough that they actually felt like this was normal. I never felt that way. I never felt like I was getting enough oxygen. The places where I had to, like the airport or on an airplane, where I absolutely had to wear it, and where the flight attendants would get on your case if it just slipped down your nose a little bit. But then they would blame the passengers. That was a time when they would say, their passengers on planes are just out of control, and really it was just because there were passengers who just had it with, these flight attendants being all in your face and yelling at you and treating you very condescendingly, talking down to you. I totally understood from the passenger's perspective, but I never, like the few times I was on planes during that period, I would just mask up and just, take it, just because I didn't want the hassle. I don't think that was a weakness on my part. I think, you have to pick your battles. But at the same time, the people who never wore them at all, at any time during that whole period of recent history. I do admire y'all for having done that. However, it was that you were able to get away with it. If you had a doctor's excuse, they weren't claiming much. Like, you couldn't really get doctor's excuses. Just like with the Baj, right? The thing that goes in your arm. They were very loath to give any kind of doctor's excuses for anyone. If you're pregnant, doesn't matter. Get the Baj. If your health is fragile, doesn't matter. Get the Baj. Sort of like in the Goodfellas scene. You had a bad month. Fuck you, pay me. That was what the protectors, the mafia, who protected these restaurants or whatever. It was just, they had no mercy on the businesses. So you had a slow month. Fuck you, pay me. So your kid's in the hospital. Fuck you, pay me. And it was the same way. It was the same attitude. It was fuck you, get the Baj. We don't care if you're pregnant. We don't care if your health is fragile. We don't care if you're old and sickly. Everyone should get this experimental drug. Again, there are so many people in the establishment with so much blood on their hands because of all this, and I will never trust them. I will never forgive them again. I will never forget, nor will I forgive. And anyway, yeah, masks were bad news. They still are. So let me know your thoughts below. Thanks for watching.